The Short Game is listener-supported on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show and join us on our Discord, head to theshortgame.net or patreon.com/theshortgame.
Welcome back to The Short Game. This is a show about short video games, games that respect your time. I'm Raygan Kelly, and I am joined this week by two fine co-hogs.
Nate Heininger.
The...
Damn it. Pizza Hog.
And Shane, the dead hog.
Nice. Nice.
I mean, sure, I guess. I was thinking more in like the Sonic milieu where everyone is like, I'm Steve the cat.
Yeah, I know. I remember that, Steve the cat, for sure.
Steve the cat, classic character in the Sonic fandom.
Of course.
I didn't realize we were going to have to come prepared with an OC.
I mean, I think our audience deserves to know what is your Sonic OC.
Well, I Nate the Pizza Hog is definitely my Sonic OC.
You know what? I'm good with that. That's good. I'm envisioning like you've got the spines, but they've got little pepperonis on them, like slices.
Ooh, I was thinking my spines were just slices of pizza. You know?
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
And just trailing like a thin film of cheese everywhere you run.
Yeah, marinara trail.
Not the fastest hedgehog.
No.
But certainly a hedgehog.
One that you're glad that shows up. You know?
I don't know if I'd be glad. It seems kind of nasty, but okay.
This would all be great for back on our Pizza Tower episode. We're crafting a monster that would fit right in with Pizza Tower.
Yeah.
Yes, we definitely are. So let's see, where were we with this? We are talking this week about the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Maybe the best title in all of video games.
Thank God I made it through the intro without having to reveal my OC.
This might be the greatest video game that we've ever covered, exclusively because of the whole package of the surprise
just the tenacity.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It really is. So we've done little like surprise drop, essentially joke games before, but this is maybe the most impressive game done entirely for a bit that I can remember ever seeing. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog is it came out the day before April Fools of this year, and of 2023. And this is a Sonic the Hedgehog and his shitty friends the visual novel.
Tell us how you really feel about his friends, Raygan.
You know what? I no longer know how I feel about Sonic's shitty friends. I used to feel like I knew how I felt about the Sonic Buddy Squad. But this game may have turned me around. This game may have totally served its intended purpose. And maybe I'm a fan of Sonic now.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a fan of Sonic, specifically his ability to run fast.
Yeah, like I always enjoyed the Sonic games from our childhood, right? But I always thought that like the Sonic fandom was a little bit cringe. It still is, don't get me wrong. And the characters were a bit thin and uninteresting and used badly in a series of bad and increasingly bad games. And rather than improve the games, they were just continuing to throw additional mammals at the problem until Sonic had a squad 30 friends deep of uninteresting but bizarrely attired anthropomorphic dudes. And that is all still true. But I think I like them a little better now. It's just a little weird.
You're talking about mammals, and I hear you, but this is Vector the Crocodile Erasure.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Shane.
And not to mention Espio.
Espio the what? What is Espio? This is the first time I've ever seen Espio.
Espio is a chameleon. Espio was in Knuckles Chaotix. I think also Charmy B. Was Charmy B in this one? I didn't get the whole way through.
No, sadly, Charmy B did not make an appearance.
There's a band though. The Hot Honey is there's like Tommy B is the front
Oh,
man
that's
for
right. Yeah,
Hot
yeah.
Honey,
So maybe Charmy B is off, playing
I
gigs
suspect.
with the
Yeah.
Hot Honeys. So yes, describing the game. This dropped all of a sudden on Steam. So far, only on Steam. This is it's a visual novel in the classic style of like lots of big character portraits talking, going through various poses,
The
while a
classics.
mostly linear story plays out in text and dialogue. Kind of a little hybridized over to point and click adventure game, because this being a mystery, you're pointing and clicking, looking for clues. But like, I don't think there's been a Sonic the Hedgehog, an official Sonic the Hedgehog visual novel before, and this actually really fit pretty well.
Yeah, they did a good job with it. I mean, we're gonna talk more about the specifics and how the game plays and whatnot, but like early react is that they did well on this. This is fun. I fully enjoyed it, and it could have been a quarter of what this was, and I think the bit would have been accomplished, but instead they decided to make a full game that has a Sonic mini game in it also that kind of feels like playing Sonic. So it's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah. The premise here is that Sonic and a bunch of his friends have come to. I don't know the Sonic continuity very well. I gather that this is, a time of peace. They don't seem to be expecting any.
I can summarize the infamous and unpredictable Sonic the Hedgehog, who was nicknamed the fastest gun in the West, is planning his next big heist while he launches preemptive strikes against those who are looking to, work with the law to collect the reward. And Robert Ford,
okay, Shane, you're summarizing the murder. What? Oh, geez, what is that? The murder.
Getting really jealous
the
of
murder
him.
Jesse James by the coward
Robert Ford.
Shane.
Yes. Oh no, I played the wrong game, guys.
Shane, in this game, they've learned how to extract dino DNA from mosquitoes trapped in amber.
The murder of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes, the assassination of Sonic the Hedgehog by the coward Robert Ford is it's also significantly train based.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, trains on both. So this game, first of all, like the bit that this was going for, is that Sonic has been murdered, and of course, this being an official release from Sega, Sonic, presumably kid friendly. Sonic hasn't been murdered. They're having a like a murder mystery party on a train. But you as a, like, you get to pick the name of your weird little marmot guy. Actually, not guy. They use they them pronouns for the entire thing. So the non-binary marmot, who I named Pasta, of course.
I figured you would name your non-binary marmot Pasta. I named him Chili Dog, and then I immediately regretted it, because the first thing you're asked to do is to look at a menu that includes Chili Dog.
That could get confusing.
Of course there's gonna be chili dogs in a modern Sonic game. We named ours after our new cat, Marcy. So Molly and I played this game together. So,
I didn't know you had a new cat. I knew you guys had a new pet. I saw on social media. Raygan, did you see the video of them having to catch their new pet in their kitchen?
We had a real Sonic the Hedgehog situation. A possum got into our house.
Oh no.
But it's actually, Shane, it's all an extension of the same thing, because Molly has created quite a habitat in our backyard. We've got bird feeders, we've got like possums and raccoons, and mind you, I live in the city on a city block, but still somehow we've managed to we call it Molly's Menagerie, and included in this menagerie has been a variety of stray cats, and one of those stray cats became very affectionate towards us. We'd already been considering getting another cat, and we absorbed the stray cat into our household, and she is having a wonderful time. She really enjoys it, and her name is Marceline. Lola name her, and it's named after Marceline, the Vampire Queen from Adventure Time. So
good name for a cat, though. That's quality.
Yeah, so we call her Marcy, and
that's really nice.
And the name Marcy fit into the naming of this game too. It felt very natural. I will say I started typing in pizza as the name to go with the same convention that you did, Raygan, and Molly was like, "No." so
I think it is very, very funny that like they give you this like kind of blank slate character, and it's kind of a nod to the idea of like people having their own Sonic OCs, but you are like a new waiter on the train on his first day, totally starstruck by the gang of Sonic and friends coming to be on the train. Then, oh my gosh, you get to investigate a murder with Tails, who is wearing the cutest little detective
Tails was
outfit.
great.
Tails was so perfect in this. That's what I'm saying is like this game made me have more affection for the Sonic characters, just because like, I know there's been tons and tons of Sonic games that have a lot more attention paid to the characters, where you spend more time talking to them and maybe get something out of their whole vibe. But like for me, the Sonic games I've played, they're just little dudes who run around, right? You don't really talk to them for the most part. And I always saw a lot of the more recent games where they do spend a lot of time on the characters as a little bit not for me. But this made me think like, hey, these characters are not bad. I don't know if it's just because they're, it was a surprise how much fun I had with it. But like I thought it was very funny talking to like Rouge the Bat or Shadow the Hedgehog in this, and grilling them about their involvement in the fake murder and whatnot. It was really cute and funny.
It's really good writing. It's fun. It's very silly. A lot of good dialogue options, and I was a huge Sonic fan as a kid. Yeah, those were my favorite games, and I've carried an affection for Sonic and his shitty friends for my entire life. But I also have engaged in virtually no actual playing of anything Sonic. Some people have been really enjoying the Sonic Frontiers, the more relatively recent release. I've been considering picking that up because I've heard good things, but I don't think I've truly engaged in a Sonic game other than Sonic Mania, was it Mania? Sonic? Yeah. An incredible game that we did for this show.
That one rules.
The first good Sonic.
We haven't
game
really
in like
talked about this. They did Sonic Mania Plus, which is like kind of an expansion pack for it. So if you get it now, I think you get Sonic Mania Plus, which adds a bunch of new characters and new content, and is really, really good. Like they switch it up to this mode where you could you're kind of incentivized to switch out a lot of the different characters, and they add in like at least I think like 2 more characters that you can switch around. It all really, really works. I played through the whole thing a second time.
I'll have to check that out. I love
that. That's game. Awesome. Yeah, I loved it too. And I've been so surprised that they haven't, like, apparently they, the people who made that, the team, including like Sean Whitehead or whatever his name was, they're no longer with. I mean, I'm recalling some online gossip, so apologies if I'm being inaccurate here. But from what I understand, they're no longer
Hedgehog
with Sega, and Sega is not doing a Sonic Mania 2. They've moved on to other things, and I think it's insane. Like Sonic Mania was like an absolute like breath of fresh air and revitalization of Sonic the Hedgehog for me, and it made me want more of that. Although I haven't played the Plus stuff, Shane, you're right. I should go back and check that out. And then like, Frontier. I mean, I think there was something in between Mania and Frontier. It's been like 4 years since Mania now or something. But like Frontier, I don't know. It doesn't really strike me as something I would really want to play. I don't like the idea of like Sonic in a totally fully 3D space. It seems like it wouldn't work. We've been trying that for decades. It hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's good. It seemed like reviews were mixed.
People are saying it's fun. Yeah, I've seen both sides of it, but I I tried to stick with the Sonic franchise through its 3D worlds, and they just never clicked for me either. And
you know what I will say though is like, as much as I think Sonic's a fun character, but like Sonic's barely in this. It's mostly a Tails showpiece.
yeah,
And Tails is so great in it. We already said, but like
that's great.
Tails is he's just so charming. And I would play another Tails game in a heartbeat. I would love to play more games that focus on, Tails doing whatever, especially if he gets more cute costumes. He was adorable.
If you like the characters here, I mean, you have children. I don't know how much affection your kids have for Sonic. My son is a big Sonic fan. He really absolutely loved the Jim Carrey Sonic the Hedgehog, and whenever he sees Jim Carrey on screen, he says, "Uncle Raygan." But
for the listeners who haven't seen, I have a mustache that's not too dissimilar from Jim Carrey's in that movie.
Real Eggman vibes coming from Raygan.
That's specifically what I'm going for.
So but recently, like this past year, like late last year, sometime in 2022, a new 3D animated Sonic TV show dropped, and so my son and I watched that together.
Is that one Sonic Boom, or which one is that?
Sonic Boom is a long time back. That was okay. I think we did watch some of Sonic Boom. I don't know how old that one is. Sonic Prime is the new one.
Okay, you can tell how connected I am with current Sonic stuff. That's fine, but
this one's pretty good. We definitely enjoyed it. It's like a fun show for kids. It has this whole multiverse thing going on, like everything does these days. So that's
sell more toys that way.
Yeah, but one of my favorite things about the multiverse Sonic thing is they introduce like a bunch of different versions of Eggman, including like Baby Eggman. Like a bunch of different weird ones. It's great. So I enjoyed this show a lot. If you like these characters, see if it clicks with your kids.
Next time I need a kids show to get my kids off my back for a little bit, maybe I'll check it out. Is it streaming anywhere?
It's on Netflix.
I've watched both of the Sonic movies relatively recently, and I think that they are bad, and also I enjoyed them.
I only saw the first one. I haven't seen the sequel. I don't know. I kept thinking eventually I would like watch it like when I could get my kids together with Shane's, because I know that he's a fan, but it seems like it's maybe getting to be old hat for Shane's kids. So maybe I just need to put that on for the kids sometime. It's very funny to me the way this was developed, because so the Sonic the Hedgehog, as a brand, has had a pretty incredible social media team for the last several years. I don't really know how far back this goes, but like they have a very specific funny voice. They're very good. If you follow the Sonic I think it's like at Sonic the Hedgehog on Twitter, they have a social media team that really understands their fan base and is constantly making memes and just generally funny posts about Sonic, or catering to the Sonic fandom, or pretending to be Sonic, commenting on the events on Twitter, that kind of thing. It's really funny. They're maybe one of the best sort of brand social media teams in video games. They're fantastic and a great follow. And one of the things I miss no longer being on Twitter. And that's why I thought it was very interesting that this game was developed by the Sonic brand social media team, not by Sonic Team of Japan, nor by necessarily quite Sega of America. This is developed by the Sonic social media team. And I think that's really interesting. Like they clearly have like a lot of affection and love for the character, but also like a deep understanding of the sort of comedic voice of Sonic as a property, and really smart to just let those people make a game. They like the social media manager, whose name is Katie Chernozowski, I think. She was tweeting about the process of making the game and how they got permission to make it. But they just sort of got together and said we should do this as a joke. The canonical status of this is highly in question, but it doesn't need to be canon nor non-canon. It's not like they really legit murder Sonic in the game. It could easily fit somewhere in the Sonic canon if there is one. And it's just really got the voice, right? It, like, I took a ton of screenshots of like funny moments in this because it's just full of like really good little funny bits of just things spoken by the characters that just made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, I laughed a lot too. And, it's not, I don't think it's usually very fun trying to like repeat jokes in a podcast, but these are.
Especially when this is such a short, it's
Yeah.
maybe like 2 hours, maybe 3 at the most, depending.
The thing that I'll say is that about the humor is that if you think of Sonic, you're probably expecting it to be like he's this like playing a lot on like how cool he is and like the whole like gotta go fast, I'm a cool guy, and it's not really that at all. It's like really charming and very sweet. Every character is really, really like nice, and even if they're not, like, Knuckles is the bruiser and Shadow's kind of mysterious, but even still, like, they're all very sweet, and it's not any like, even for a kid's thing, it's not like edgy,
Yeah, it's funny because it's a group of friends who've come together to essentially play a game together. You feel the affection between them in a way that I don't think I've really picked up on in other Sonic stuff. It just feels like a bunch of, certainly over the top, goofy cartoon characters, but it's rooted in like they all came together to celebrate Amy's birthday. Like they're all being sweet to her because it's her birthday. Like,
I love the establishment of all of the birthday rules that exist in this in this culture. I guess
she got the birthday key that can unlock any lock. A well-known birthday tradition.
Everyone knows about the birthday key. Of course, you have a birthday key that opens every door on the train that you're on. Like, it's so good. There's all these birthday rules, and I loved the like flashback sequence that they kept going back to, and every time the flashback was different. There was some really funny stuff. Did you the trash can bit made me think of
that was very funny.
Well, it's kind of ripping on the West of Loathing spittoon bit, if you remember that.
You're right. You're right. I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
but it's very funny. Your unnamed non-binary marmot occasionally
your non-binary unnamed Quokka is actually
that what he is?
Yeah,
he is a
Quokka. I said marmot just because I don't know. He gave off marmot vibe to me. What's a Quokka?
A Quokka
whatever
is a short-tailed wallaby.
Oh, these things. That's why he's so cute, or they are so cute. Yeah, no, Quokka's a. Of course, naturally, the Quokka. I knew about these.
Yeah, duh.
They're little the Quokka, a small macropod about the size of a domestic cat. It is the only member of the genus Cetonix. Like other marsupials in the macropod family, such as kangaroos and wallabies, the Quokka is herbivorous and mainly nocturnal. And also, they work on trains and are referred to as microwave guy. That was very funny to me. Like, your whole thing throughout this is like asking people if they want anything, but the entire menu is like just a handful of things they can stick in the microwave, and your only training for this job involved how to use the microwave. Very funny.
If you touch a Quokka in the wild, you're subject to a $300 fine.
Wow. But is it the Quokka that charges you the fine? Who's who's monitoring all of the Quokkas to see if they're being touched or not?
This would be the government of Australia.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So those are Australian dollars, if that matters to you.
Okay.
And if you're cruel to one, that fine could go as high as $50,000. Just
wow.
Oh my! I did not know this. Now it is my only. We need to plan a heist in which we pet a Quokka. That's the crime of the century now.
Yeah.
Because these things look really petable.
They do look petable. So, I mean, another great grab by the social media team. They picked, another cute little thing to add into this world. They really, it's so funny. It made me think about like Nintendo has branched out a little bit with some of their massive IP, letting the Crypt of the Necrodancer crew make a Zelda game.
A singular event that has not repeated. Like, there have been no more of that. I don't know what the internal thinking about that incredible project was at Nintendo, but it didn't convince anybody to let more people license Nintendo properties for their games.
No, not yet. At least not that we've seen. So, but it made me think of that, right? Like, how do you take a very popular IP and just put it in an entirely new context? And Sega did that times a million with this. Like Legend of Hyrule for Crypt of the Necrodancer, like still in a lot of ways felt like a normal old school Zelda game. Whereas this, obviously, there's no overlap between Sonic and a visual murder mystery visual novel. However, though, as I mentioned at the beginning, the majority of this game is a point and click mystery visual novel, but they did develop a mini game that is in the middle of it that is frequent. It is a constant part of this game, is playing this little Sonic game.
This reminded me a lot of the mechanics side of Danganronpa. Danganronpa is another sort of murder mystery visual novel game. Excellent games, by the way. If you want to play them, I think they're on Game Pass still. And that has a kind of mini game that you play whenever you're trying to convince people of things, where it kind of does this like shooting game where you're shooting ideas, I guess. And that's kind of felt like the milieu this was in, but instead of this little shooting game, anytime that your main character is trying to arrange their thoughts in order to convince someone of something, you might need to present a piece of evidence to someone to say, like, this evidence shows that this is what happened. Then rather than just choosing from a menu, it does the much more exciting thing of retreating into, I don't know, presumably the character's head, where a vaguely Game Gear-like device comes up out of the bottom of the screen that says, for me, Pasta's Dream Gear, and has a screen that looks a lot like the special stages from the Game Gear Sonic games, where it's got an isometric sort of auto runner perspective, and you can sort of go left to right in order to dodge obstacles or jump over them and try to collect as many coins as possible without losing coins when you get hit. I actually really quite liked this idea, having something Sonic-like to do. No matter how disconnected it is from the story, it's like a fun little mechanic to spice up those moments when you're trying to convince someone of something. I actually found it a little too hard. Like in the settings, it's got a setting for like assist mode settings, and I was getting really frustrated with it even very early on. And I went into the assist mode settings, and it says something along the lines of, we tuned this for real Sonic fans, but you can turn, it has a number of things you can change. I was like, man, they have me pegged. I'm not a real Sonic fan. Crap. But I turned off pitfalls. Like, it's not just like how easy or hard is it. It has several things you can tune. You can decide how many coins, or not coins. What am I talking about? How many rings? God,
yes, please.
You get when you get rings. So you can increase the percentage that you get with rings to like give you extra rings, or decrease how many you lose when you get hit. And also you can turn off pitfalls in the levels. And I was finding myself falling into pits like way, way too much and getting frustrated. So I just turned them off. And I was really glad it gave me that opportunity, because it was still fun to play even without the pitfalls. So I would recommend, if you're getting stuck on that, like, this is not supposed to be, from what I can tell, a like challenge based game. This is supposed to be something you can, breeze through to experience the fun and the story. And so if you're having trouble with the old school Sonic runner bits, just tweak it.
Yeah. I did find them fun. I definitely also found them more challenging than I would expect for something like this. And to the point that by the middle end of the game, I was actually kind of starting to get bummed when they would come up, because I was kind of into the story and into like moving through the interrogation scenes. And almost every interrogation scene, you're going to have to play this little runner 2 to 3 times. And so at the end of the game, you probably beat 15, 20 of these levels. So it ends up being a pretty big part of the game, and it gets harder and harder and harder. So yeah, definitely recommend tuning it down because it can get challenging. But I do like that they put this in here, you know, that the mystery side of the game until the end, you're not really as a player making a lot of like connections or anything like that. The game sort of puts it all together for you. And in lieu of you necessarily having to make difficult decisions or really connect the dots, they have you play a little Sonic game. And I think that it works really well.
There's also, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but like it's a visual novel with a final boss, like not something you encounter in one of these very often. And I thought that was really fun. So it was nice that they included this action mechanic because they were able to, you know, return to it at times in order to like sort of raise the stakes in ways that I think are hard to do in a visual novel.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated that about it, even though I found it kind of annoyingly difficult.
Well, that's part of what I was speaking about at the beginning too, is that this game is way more complex and deeper and longer than I really expected it to be. You know, they launch it the day before April Fools. It really felt like the whole point of it was the launch, just to be able to put that trailer out. The trailer's hilarious. It gets a ton of buzz. And like, I kind of expected that to be it. And then for the game to be like 1 hour, probably cheeky, a little bit of fun, you know, and be done. And instead it's this like fully developed visual novel with fantastic art, this little mini game, like 4 or 5 hours long, you know, especially depending on your skill level with those.
Probably less. Yeah. I think I finished it right at 3 hours, I think.
Okay.
And that was with me having turned the difficulty on those sections down. So maybe if you got stuck on those a whole lot, but I think if you're getting stuck for 2 hours on those, like stop torturing yourself, just turn it down.
For something that's basically a gag for the social media team, this turned out really amazing, and it got something like 1 million downloads in its first week on Steam. And by the end of that time, it was ranked number 61 on the list of the highest rated Steam games of all time. So pretty weird.
Pretty good.
And I mean, you know, like understood that this is a little bit like a weird curve because of the special circumstances of this game's release, but also this is now the top rated Sonic game on Steam of the entire Sonic the Hedgehog franchise.
Making it free is also key
exactly
for this.
That's the curve that it's on here.
But it's part of the brilliance of it, though. You know, like if it's coming from the social media team, then you assume that like this whole thing might have been developed from their marketing budget, you know, and then
almost certainly, yeah.
If that's the case, like fantastic marketing, right? Like,
yeah, this is incredible. And this is like the visual novels as a thing are the kind of go-to thing that joke game releases end up doing, and they're almost all universally poorly executed garbage. I'm thinking about things like when like that are just there to exist for a gag headline. Like I'm thinking about things like when KFC released a dating visual novel where you could date the hot colonel or whatever. And there've been a bunch of things like that over the years. I'm struggling to remember any others off the top of my head, but like I'm sure Arby's did one or something. It's just it's a thing that certain brands sometimes do. Because it's like a proven way to get a laugh, right? And I guarantee you those things are not worth playing. What is amazing here is that the social media team, they didn't just understand, you know, the voice and comedic, you know, the way to be funny about and as Sonic the Hedgehog so well that they could spin that understanding out into a fully developed story and game. but like they were able to marshal the resources to produce that game in incredible style. We haven't talked much about the art really, but like they have incredible art. The backgrounds are beautiful and full of funny details. The character portraits are maybe the best these characters have ever looked, and they're all wearing cute outfits that
they look great. Yeah,
it's so great.
The little their emotions, their still faces as you progress through the dialogue, of which there's a ton. It's a I mean I don't know how many individual drawings they did of these characters, but especially like Tails, it's a ton.
He's so expressive, and he's blushing and smiling and making little angry faces. He's so expressive, and the entire time he's wearing a tiny hat, and it's so cute.
It's cute.
And this game even made me like some of the characters that previously I couldn't have told you the first thing about. Like Blaze the cat is incredibly funny in this. What is the deal with Blaze the cat? Like I would never have given a crap about Blaze the cat, but here she is, and like just great comic timing. I took some screenshots of what is. I know we said we weren't just going to share jokes, but I took some screenshots of what I thought was the funniest scene in the game, which is that Tails and Rouge the Bat and Blaze the Cat are talking about how to break into a sealed room on the train, and they're talking about what they're how they're gonna get past. There's a portion where they have to get through an elevator that has like mechanical arms in it. They're talking about how they're going to get past this, and one of the options is tie them in one big knot. And Rouge says, "My shoes don't have laces. Does anyone here know how to tie a knot?" and then Blaze she holds up her fan and says, "Yes. Well, no." And then of course Pasta the didgeridoo or whatever.
That's it. That's it.
I can, but I got to sing a little song while I do it. That is the funniest line. I don't know. Anyway, it's just an incredibly funny, incredibly warm game. It's just full of warmth for these characters. Like, how did this social media team pull the magic trick of making me care about Blaze the Cat or anybody in this crew? I don't know, but they managed it in an incredibly brief window into this fandom that I would not have had otherwise. So I really appreciated this. I don't think this is going to turn me into a new lifelong Sonic stan. I'm not like about to start going and creating my own OCs or going and reading the interminable comic book or anything like that. But I don't know. Maybe if there are Sonic fans out there who can point me to the gems of the Sonic fandom that have this same voice and warmth to it, maybe I would enjoy it. So let me know.
Well, and with the success of this game, maybe this is the starting point for something like that, right? Where it's going to start, they'll produce more things like this and use this version of these characters.
I would love to see more done like this, and not just as a one-off joke. I would love to see like a more lengthy flesh these characters out and give us more time in this sort of hangout space with them. This would be. I'd love to see more of this.
They do a few things in this game too that I think are just nice little quality of life things that I enjoyed for a game like this, which is one of them that I thought was worth mentioning is, this game works in like segments. You're moving train car to train car to train car, which is a really good way to segment out a game. It's very good understanding of where you are and what's ahead of you. And through the gameplay, you're collecting items. And you're using those items for the purposes of interrogating people and solving the mystery. And every time you solve, or you complete a little interrogation and you go into the next train car, there's a little blurb that's like, "Oh, I don't need to. I don't need I got too much stuff with me. I don't need to carry this anymore." And all of the items that were relevant to that train car and are clearly no longer ever going to be relevant again to your gameplay are dropped out of your inventory. And I don't know. I thought that was really a smooth way to do it. It's kind of funny how they frame it, and it keeps you with a super focused inventory. And if I'm holding on to an item, I'm going to use it. and then when I'm done with it, it's gone. Because a lot of the gameplay is like Tails will be like, hey, can you remind me what that thing was that we found? And it pulls up your menu and you have to click on the item. And if it retained all of the shit that you'd collected through the whole game, I think it would be a little unwieldy or annoying. But instead, it's just really, really concise. And like everything about this game is pretty straightforward and just, it's more about delivering the story and the dialogue, and there's not really anything other than possibly if you struggle, or likely if you struggle with the mini game. But other than that, like, it's really smooth. It plays really easily and really, it's like a really light.
Absolutely. I'll also just say that this, like, I hope this comes to other platforms, but this was a great example of like why I was glad I had a Steam Deck. This dropped exclusively on Steam. Played it on the Steam Deck. It does not have gamepad controls, but day one, somebody, I don't know if it was Sega officially or somebody, programmed a control scheme for it that worked fine. And, I could use my little like touchpad as a mouse for the places where I needed to mouse around or touch the screen. And I think this will be, I would hope that they take the I don't know if it'll be in the budget. I don't know where how they justify doing like the whole full porting effort to take this to other platforms. But I kind of hope they do, because it's such a nice little game. I would say they should port it and charge $5 for it or something. I think it'd be
I could see it on iPad or any bigger tablet like that. I think
you could do it on Switch as well. Like you just need either an on-screen cursor or maybe just do something to arrow between selectable items. I would love to see them do more of this. I hope that they make a sequel next year, or that they spin this out into something.
Who gets killed next?
I don't know, man. All the rest of them.
It would
Sonic,
be,
Sonic is mourning in a pile of bloodied corpses of all his shitty friends. Oh God,
Vector, no,
Charmy, no. Blaze, the cat, who's apparently from another dimension. I didn't know that detail, but now I do. While we got a couple extra minutes, do we have time for what's making us happy this week?
I think we do.
Sure. Shane, what's making you happy this week?
Oh, I don't have one.
I know. I gotta think too.
You can't spring this on me at the end of every episode.
It's not springing if it happens every episode.
Or I'll go.
Nate, what's making you happy this week?
Well, shepherding a possum out of my house really made me happy. It was.
I need to. I missed this social media video, and I now need to see it. Where is this that I can see?
It
was a story, so I think it's gone.
Yeah, I'll send you some. Okay. I'll send you some great possum content.
Sorry, listeners, you'll have to do without.
It was truly inevitable. It's like I knew someday one of these giant monsters, fat possums in our backyard, were going to come.
Post
in
it to the Patreon page, Nate. Our listeners need to see.
Yeah, maybe I could drop it in the Discord. So that's making me happy, and then otherwise, I don't know how relevant this is for everybody. We often recommend other games and books and TV shows and stuff like that. But for me, springtime, and that means baseball's back on, and that's making me happy, Raygan. I've been watching baseball. I'm actually traveling to Denver here in a couple days to go and see some games and enjoy springtime in the mountains. So I'm just enjoying the weather warming up and spending some more time outside in between solving murders of my favorite little characters.
Yeah, we don't post it here enough, but if you happen to be a baseball fan, Nate has another podcast that's a good time for the baseball fans, and it's called Talking About Birds. Where can they find Talking About Birds?
Well, at this point, we all know where to find podcasts, right? So if you happen to be in the narrow field of being a St. Louis Cardinals fan, check it out. It's been a good time.
Yeah. Let's see. I have something that I will say has been making me happy that was specifically just a weird situation that happened to me last night and this morning. I fell asleep. I was holding my
That
Steam
is
Deck.
strange.
Yes, that is. Well, actually, these days, unfortunately, that is kind of strange. Not getting that much sleep around here lately, guys. Babies. But yeah, I was finishing up playing this game and started to sort of pass out. And so I wear a sort of little sleep headband thing, which helps me fall asleep and play podcasts and audiobooks in it sometimes. And put that on and played, I think, an episode of the Rock Paper Shotgun indie game podcast, which is pretty new and pretty good if folks are looking for a new podcast. Don't listen to it if you only have room for one indie game related podcast in your life. Then do not listen to it.
Stay with us.
Don't need the competition. That's right.
But if you need one more of those and you've got plenty of space in your podcast feed for it, then sure, check it out. It's a good one and very British. And I guess I fell asleep listening to that. And then I woke up this morning, and apparently at 1:00 in the morning, I had rolled over in bed, got my phone, and bought a game on Steam and had no memory of either hearing about it on the podcast, deciding to buy it, or enacting that will. I woke up to a receipt from Steam for a game called Teenage Blob. And I was like, what the hell is this? But then I went and looked and I'm like, actually, yeah, I guess Sleep Me has a pretty good taste. This seems like something maybe I should check out, maybe for the show. I don't know. So I'm going to check out Teenage Blob later today, a game that apparently I bought in my sleep. So first time that's ever happened to me.
That is peak capitalism right there, too.
I know.
They got you to buy stuff in your sleep.
It was only like $8, so I'm really glad that Sleep Me didn't decide to, like, I don't know, take out a loan or something.
Well, I was gonna say,
this could have been Steam's new subliminal purchasing feature.
Will you send me an OLED TV? I would love that. I need a new monitor for my I want a good monitor for my Steam Deck. I am also a podcast listener when I go to bed, and I will tell you, nothing ruins my routine more than forgetting to put on the little sleep timer on the podcast app, and you wake up at 4 a.m. to a random podcast. I'm like, damn it, what 6 shows that I just listened to that I have to go back through and click as not listened to, because I listen to a lot of shows, but I try not to miss them, so I have to go back and figure out oh, cool. I wake up in the middle of an episode and 99% invisible. It's very, very confusing.
See, this is something that I do every night, and so I have a lot of hacks for this. So I will share some tips if you are the sort of, I don't know, this probably isn't the case for everybody, but for me, my brain goes if I don't have something going on in my ears. And so if I'm lying there trying to fall asleep and I don't have a podcast playing, intrusive thoughts, baby. I'll be awake until whenever. But if I put on a podcast, I'm asleep in 10 minutes or less.
And shopping in 20.
And apparently shopping online. So hot tips, those sleep headband things, you can get cheap ones on Amazon for $20 and they are totally worth it. Even the bad ones, you can make them work for you. I ended up, after a year of using a cheap, shitty bad one, buying a nice one. They have them from about $100 to $150 from a company called Acoustic Sheep. And those are, I wouldn't 100% say they're worth the money they charge. That's kind of expensive for what they are, but they are very nice if you if that's a thing that you want to spend money on. I use it every night, so it was worth it to me.
That is funny. I actually do the same thing, but I just wind up using my regular AirPods.
I did that for a while too, and it ended up making me very uncomfortable.
I do that, and then I have to find it every morning because it's fallen out somewhere.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And I have the in-ear AirPods, the AirPods Pro, and I was finding it was just very uncomfortable in the morning. This lets me sleep, I'm a side sleeper, so it lets me actually sleep with the headphones sort of in between me and the pillow without being uncomfortable. And the other tip, this was more for Nate. I do a sleep mode on my phone where it activates a special sleep home screen, and I just have a gigantic button that's a shortcut. that starts Overcast with a 30-minute sleep timer. So I just hit that and it immediately starts playing and sets the sleep timer. And
Smart.
it's like the only button on screen past like 11 p.m.
That right there, big smart.
Pro tip.
Statistically, I think the odds are that a chunk of our listeners are actually listening to this while trying to fall asleep, and some of them have fallen asleep. So, Raygan, what do you want them to buy?
Okay. Go put $100 in the Patreon. Go put $100
Patreon. The short game.
Yeah.
And also talking about birds.
Sure, why not? Do us first, though. So yeah, that's me. That's what made me happy. This morning when I woke up was figuring out what had happened, and at first being confused and then being actually kind of pleased. So Shane, what's making you happy this week?
Well, I will throw out, I won't get too deep into it, but over the course of the last week-ish, maybe a little more, I have been on an audiobook binge. So once again on a audio-related topic here. I've made my way through the Scholomanse series by Naomi Novik.
Oh, those are so fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed those. I think you and Laura had mentioned them to me at some point. And they were definitely very enjoyable. This is for listeners who kind of want the pitch on this. It's basically, Harry Potter, but what if the death rate at Hogwarts was like 60%? So it's a fun one. It's kind of like I always enjoy a nice, fairly well realized magical world, and it's had that. It's not the top book I've read in a long time, but it really was super enjoyable, especially if you're looking for something that kind of fits that niche of young adult fiction where lots of children are murdered. So
now
a surprisingly big percentage of young adult fiction.
Yeah, if you took like Hogwarts and then put like a good dash of like Lord of the Flies and the Hunger Games in there, like you pretty much get what this book series is going for. A lot of good characters, some fun twists, very enjoyable.
Yeah, I liked those a lot too. Definitely recommend them. And the audiobooks were good. I did the audiobooks of those as well. I'm a big audiobook guy. I almost never seem to find myself with time and inclination to sit down and read, but I somehow can, even in a really busy schedule with, kids and a job and recording this podcast, I somehow managed to get, a couple of hours of podcasts or audiobooks, and often lately audiobooks in about every day. So audiobooks.
I've been thinking about, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I have been thinking about trying to mix it up more with audiobooks. To
really ramp up the audiobooks the more depressing the news gets, because I listen to a lot of news podcasts. That's how I engage with the news. And if the news is not doing it for me, sometimes I have to retreat into some school for angsty young wizards.
I listen to primarily comedy podcasts, so that for me is the breakaway from everything else is the comedy podcast.
I listen to too many video game oriented podcasts personally. Probably the majority of my podcast playlist are games related. And sometimes, that's most of the time that's what I want. And sometimes it's just not. And I'll be like, you know what, this week, no, I'm going to do an audiobook instead and just skip it all. And you know what, the world of podcasts continues, and I never really miss anything that important. I just take breaks from it every now and then.
Except for this show, of course, is you never want to miss one of those. If you were a subscriber of this show.
No, never miss the short game, please. It's very important that you listen to or you know what? Just make sure it downloads. Take those numbers for us, buddy. We appreciate you. And I guess that's it for this week. So thank you very much for joining us on this episode of The Short Game. You can find our show on the internet at shortgame.fm, the website with all the links, shortgame.fm. It's got links there to find our Patreon. By the way, did you know you can support this show on Patreon? And every patron, even at just $1 a month, gets instant access to our Discord community where we talk about the games that we're playing. We talk about Sonic and his shitty friends. We talk about all that stuff, and we plan future episodes. It's a good place to chat. Join us there. We would love to have you. And if you support at the $5 or up level, then I will send you some Short Game stickers. You can also find on the shortgame.fm links to our show page with the show notes. You can find links to you can buy a Short Game logo tee if that's a thing that you want to do. We have those available via the Cotton Bureau. Let's see, anything else off the top of my head? Links to all of our socials, including me. I'm on Mastodon. And links to everybody else's socials, but I'll let them introduce. Nate, where can people find you?
On Twitter at NateSTL and Mastodon Nate at bird.rodeo.
Indeed. And Shane, where can people find you?
Also on Mastodon at 8bitshane.mstdn. I always forget the damn URL.
The link is on the shortgame.fm.
That's where you go.
That's where you go. And listeners, thank you once again for joining us on this episode of The Short Game.